The BS Report is a free-flowing conversation that occasionally touches on mature subjects.
First of all,
This is the BS Report with Bill Simmons.
it might be cool, I don't know. And if it's not, I don't care.
The BS Report with Bill Simmons.
Bill Simmons works for ESPN. He's also named the sports guy, and he writes a comical sports column. He must be a popular dude.
The BS Report.
It's got a real dirty sound, like a rusty steak knife cutting through a well-aged steak.
Now.
Here's Bill Simmons.
Welcome to the BS Report, coming off round one of the 2013 NFL playoffs. Coming up in a little bit, Cousin Sal and Chad Millman talking about the Vegas Lions right now from NFL.com, NFL Network. Mike Lombardi, were you disappointed by the play in round one?
You know, Bill, I wasn't. I kind of expected it. I thought that that's the way the games would go. I thought the seedings, when Houston lost to Indianapolis, I thought the seedings got correct. And by that, I think that these games probably were a reflection of the season, and it really seemed to me that the teams that I thought would win won.
Cincinnati against Houston. I think if you look at the four teams of who's probably kicking themselves the most after those four games, I would say Cincinnati is right up there, because if Dalton completes one of those two long A.J. Green passes, 20 points might have been enough to win that game.
Yeah, I mean, look, the A.J. Green pass, but then he's got the receiver from Cal wide open down the field early in the game, and makes him have to come back for the ball.
Right.
And that was another throw that he never got his feet underneath him or drove the ball. But if they get above the line quarterbacking play in Cincinnati, in terms of a guy that can make plays, and they get above the line ability to get the ball to A.J. Green before the second half starts, you know, they're going to win that game. They played well enough on defense to win the game, but you know, you don't convert on third down against a team that had been very poor in terms of third down conversion defense. So to me, it's a reflection that Cincinnati's in where they probably don't want to be. They're at a spot where they have a good quarterback. They don't have a great one. Mm-hmm. And to win playoff games, you got to have a great quarterback.
Houston, everything goes right in that game. Dalton doesn't play well. Foster gets 40 touches, runs the ball really well. They don't have any horrible turnovers except for the one pick six. They barely win at home. Schaub looks really shaky in that game. If you're a Houston fan, what's making you feel good about going into New England this weekend?
Well, I think what's making you look good is the fact that you reminisce about the time when the Jets got blown out on Monday night against the Patriots in December, and then came back up there in the divisional round and won the game. So I think you're going to hear a lot of that this week, and I think you're going to take solace and the comfort in to think that the Patriots might take you like they took the Jets for granted, and that you have a chance to go up there and do what the Jets did and repeat history, that to knock the Patriots out and prove to people. I mean, I would suspect that the Texans are, you know, going to do whatever they have to do to find a way to steal a possession, create an extra possession for themselves, to whether it's a fake punt, field goal, whatever it's going to be. I think they're going to go all in that area, because I think they know that if they try to play it straight, they won't win it.
So you think it's a kitchen sink game for the Texans? You pull the kitchen sink out, you just start throwing stuff.
You have to. I think they have to. I think they have to be as creative as possible, because, look, this road that they have to take now leads them to New England and then perhaps to Denver. I don't think anybody wanted to go to New England and Denver to get to the Super Bowl.
Right. Well, if you're making the case for Houston, you would say the playoff games that the Pats have lost in the past, especially that Jets game and especially the two Super Bowls, the teams that controlled the ball, ran off a lot of clock, kept New England from making big plays, pressured Brady. On paper, they can do all those things, but I just don't trust Schaub at all. Do you think he's hurt? What's going on with him?
Well, I don't think they have enough explosive playmakers. I think it's hard for him to get the football to anybody else but Andre Johnson. I think their team offensively is slow, and because of that, it becomes the burden is on him. And he's always been more of a product of the system than he's been the guy who carries them. So I think more than anything, I think he needs those great players around him. And without that, he doesn't really have – Kevin Walters, not a dynamic receiver. Owen Daniels doesn't look to be the same mismatched tight end that he once was, even though he had 6 touchdowns last year. And then, what other receiver is going to catch the football? Is it Lester Jean?
Right.
Posey? There's really nothing there. Do they miss Jacoby Jones? In a sense, they do. But I think that's more than anything, and I think Schaub pays a dear price for that.
Well, I think the shocking thing for me is just how they never even throw the ball more than 12, 13 yards. They'll even have a 3rd and 13, and he'll check down and throw to somebody who's 5 yards away. I don't remember one time them going 40 yards downfield. Seems like they're a pretty easy team to scout. I was watching that Houston-Cincy game thinking to myself, I really want Houston to win this because I would rather play Houston in round 2 than Cincinnati. If you look for the Pats, this could not have broken better. You have to admit that, right?
Yeah, I think they know them. They understand the offense, and they know that power and physicality does disrupt the Texas passing game. They also have an offense that can build the lead, which is, we know this, the Texans need to play from in front. They need to play with balance. They need to be able to control the pace because they are a team that's going to throw the ball, for the most part, between 1 and 10 yards down the field. They're a short passing game that does yards after the catch. They're not an explosive team in terms of let's throw it up the field and make big plays. So they have to control the ball, control the pace. And with the Patriots, if they get the lead on them, then it becomes problematic for them to handle. And it's hard.
And the irony is that you beat the Pats by throwing the ball downfield on them. So really,
you have to make big plays against, but you have to do even if you do what the 49ers do, you still run the risk that they can come back on you. But you've got to be able to match them point for point, and you can't match them on 10-play drives because something happens, whether a receiver drops a pass or whether the fullback misses a block or whatever. It becomes very difficult to control.
Baltimore and Indy. I took Indy. It was the one pick I got wrong last week. I still feel good about the pick. I feel like they were in that game. Flacco, first of all, the Ray Rice play at the end of the half was just a killer. And then Flacco and Bolden made 3 really great plays, that I'm not sure they could make every week. On the flip side, you knew the Colts were going to get pressured. But I thought Luck handled himself reasonably well. His receivers let him down a little bit. Vinatieri let him down on that field goal that he missed. But they were in that game. If those teams played 10 times, what do you think the result is for those 10 games?
Well, I think a couple points here. I think, no disrespect to Clyde Christensen, but I think it's a tough spot to go in. He was trying to manage that game. He didn't want to make a mistake. I thought there were way too many first down runs. They were very conservative in the game. I think to beat Baltimore, you needed to allow – I think Phil Simms said it on the air. I think you needed to be in the Canadian offense. You needed to try to get first downs on 2 downs so you could stay out of that third down stuff. And I didn't get the sense. I thought that Clyde was trying to kind of keep the game, slow the pace of the game down, which to a degree was good, but it played into Baltimore's hands. And what really gives Baltimore the most trouble is when you can make some plays up the field on him, which Arians likes to do. He throws it up the field. I think there was way too many runs called in the game that had Arians been there, it wouldn't have happened. So I think that was a factor. And then, I do think Baltimore was the better team. I don't think Baltimore's a great team, but they are the better team. They're playing better on defense. And they finally got some plays. Finally, Baltimore. I don't understand why it took this long, but finally Baltimore put their 5 best offensive linemen on the field. Michael Orr not being at left tackle and going to right tackle was by far the best move. I don't know why they insisted on keeping Orr at left tackle all season. And that move with McKinney going in at left tackle. Now, maybe McKinney couldn't hold up for 16 games. I don't know the answer. I'm not second-guessing anybody. But that gave them their best team.
And if you're Denver right now, and we knew this heading into the playoffs, from the 3, 4, 5, and 6 seeds in the AFC, there was one dangerous team, Baltimore. We didn't know if they were washed up. We knew they were a team that was more reputation than substance, but we also knew that they have the confidence that they can win anywhere. We know that when Flacco throws the ball deep and gets going a little bit, they're really dangerous. We know Ray Rice can break plays. We know they have a lot of smart guys on D. We know they have a good coach. All of a sudden now, if you're Denver, you're looking at that game, you're a little nervous, I would think, by that Flacco performance. Well,
Flacco only has 12 completions in the game, and he's got 282 yards. I mean, that's how you win.
Yep.
It's not about percentage of completion. It's about big plays, and that's what they made. I mean, they made big plays in the game. And, if this – I actually never thought that Indy could win the game. I really thought it was Baltimore would dominate the game. And if it wasn't for Ray Rice's fumbles, it could have been a lot worse.
Yeah.
And so, I think that's what Flacco has to be. It's almost that he's got to take on the Mad Bomber mentality, get it up the field, throw it up there. But when a team gives up 350 yards rushing in a playoff game, then you know that they're not very good, not in a playoff game, but just in a game in general.
Yeah.
You're not a very good team.
Right.
And so that's where I was with Indianapolis. I love the story. I love the emotion. I loved it all. But I think when you watched them play against the Jets or you watched them play against any team on the road, I think their deficiencies, especially in the offensive line, showed up. And what Baltimore did a really good job, and people don't realize this, but Baltimore did a really good job of keeping Andrew Luck in the pocket and making him throw from the pocket, making him not be able to get comfortable. Now, I'm not saying he can't throw from the pocket, but their offensive line isn't very talented, and it becomes tight areas to throw in. Where he made plays, a little bit like Ben Roethlisberger. He gets out of the pocket, he moves around, and he creates some plays with his feet to throw it up the field. And that's really a good thing, and that's what he does so effectively.
My issue with Baltimore, and the reason I ended up taking Indy, I also didn't want to take 4 favorites. That always makes me nervous in round 1, but I just wasn't convinced that Baltimore could play a really good game. And
right.
I thought they played really well that game. In particular, Ray Lewis, who I thought going into the game was pretty washed up and was also playing hurt, and Lord knows how he's playing with torn triceps, but he was really good. I thought their tight ends would be torching him that whole game, and they weren't. Now, is that a mistake by the Colts, or is Ray Lewis somehow improved?
Well, I think he's rested. His legs are fresh, and there's no pounding. I mean, what people don't realize about, I think this happened to Andrew Luck too, is all the wear and tear on your body affects your power in your legs, and you lose that. That's why baseball pitchers run in the outfield all the time. They want to keep their legs strong. It's the same thing with football players. And as it relates to Andrew Luck, he's taken so many hits. He's gotten hit so many times that it's very difficult for him to be able to handle that.
Yeah.
And it wore him down, and it made him more. That's why they ran that graphic. I think in the last 5 games, he's thrown for less than 50% completions.
Right. What does Baltimore have to do to beat Denver other than complete a couple of those deep balls?
Well, they have to play great red zone defense. They got to keep him from scoring touchdowns down there. They've got to play great red zone third down defense. Okay, they can't let him keep the ball in the red zone and keep trying to take shots at the end zone. They got to defend the big play, which is what they hit you on, and they've got to force them to have to make play some catch up, and they've got to be able to protect the edges. And if they do that, I think they have a chance. They can't let the Von Millers and the Elvis Dumervilles control the game.
If I'm a Denver fan, what am I the most concerned about in this game?
Well, you're concerned about the big play. You're concerned about Torrey Smith making a play. You're concerned about the pace of the game. You're concerned about being able to make sure that you can stop the balance of the Baltimore, make Baltimore one-dimensional, and keep the big play away. And if they have balance and they're able to throw it up the field, then all of a sudden one play here or one play there. I think if you're Denver, you don't want to get one of those one-play games because I'm not sure you've seen a lot of those this season. How do you react to that?
Joe Webb was terrible on Saturday night. Really, really terrible. I'm not sure Christian Ponder would have been much better. Do you think Ponder makes a difference in that game?
I really don't. I think, look, finally Green Bay got in a position to stop it and handle it, the running game, and they took that away. And the problem for Joe Webb was more of a pistol type quarterback than he is a under center quarterback. And if you look at Joe Webb against the Detroit Lions last year when he let them back, or a game against the Eagles in Philadelphia after the snow delay, he's a shotgun, option, read it out type of player. And that doesn't necessarily play into Adrian Peterson's strengths. So they were caught between two offenses with a player who really had no reps at all.
Yep.
And once Green Bay figured out they were going to try to run a little bit, and once you took Peterson away, and Green Bay's probably in their huddle saying, hey, look, we've got to find a way. Just let's get one stop and make it into second and long, and get this game going that way. Then I think it was different.
Green Bay, in my opinion, Denver, New England, Seattle, and San Francisco are on a certain plane of you just kind of know when it gets to January, like, all right, these teams are at this level and they can do these things and how fast they are on defense, and you just kind of know who the elite teams are. Green Bay is the one team that I'm not sure is on that level or not. What do you think?
Well, look, Green Bay's playing Minnesota. That defense, they know each other. There's so much familiarity between the two teams. It's difficult to really judge. I thought their receivers getting back really helped. Jermichael Finley certainly helps a little bit. Their offensive line, I think the back really helps them too. I think he gives them some juice.
Oh, wait, hold on. Let's talk about him for a second, because you and I are the chairmans of the blink test with running backs. And I like this guy. I think he's legitimately good.
No,
yeah.
He gave him some juice.
Who is it? Collinsworth compared it a little bit to that really weird 5 weeks when James Starks all of a sudden was good.
Right.
And I don't know what happens with running backs where they get the mojo like that, but he does, like, he's a little Marshawn Lynchy, the way he pounds the hole and keeps plays alive and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a weakness for them anymore, that position.
No, I think he gave them some strength. So I think they're a different team, and I think that Woodson gets a game under his belt. They have some confidence, and you can never rule out the great quarterback. And they have his receivers back. So, if Justin Smith's not 100%, can they attack this 49er defense? Yeah, I think they can.
So they're playing the Niners, a team that really, really handed it to them in week 1. And then if you're looking at this more big picture, the Giants had a lot of trouble. Or they had a lot of trouble against the Giants last year in the playoffs. They had a lot of trouble against Seattle earlier in the season. A lot of trouble against the Niners. And is there a certain type of team that just gives the Packers problems? Can we make that deduction?
Yes, there is. It's a team that can rush and can disrupt their passing game. I mean, that's the team that gives them trouble. And they can rush with 4 guys. That's what's always going to give Green Bay. That's what always gives a quarterback problems is pressure. And look, do they beat the Giants last year if Osi Umenora doesn't strip the ball out of his hands on the double move? Probably because the guy's wide open. They're going to score a touchdown there.
Right.
And, I think it's going to come down to Green Bay's offensive line. And can they protect? They're going to be good enough at right tackle with Barkley over there. And then they've got Newhouse has got to play his best game. And I think without Justin Smith in there setting the picks for Aldon Smith to come around on, perhaps they can do it. But the receivers being back certainly gives them confidence, and I think you can never underestimate the greatness of Aaron Rodgers.
So the other part that we got to mention, Kaepernick, first
Different
playoff game, and I feel a little different about him than I did about Russell Wilson or Griffin had he been healthy, or even Andrew Luck, who, I agree with you, was worn down and took a lot of punishment in that Ravens game, but I also feel like he got better as that game went along. I don't think his receivers helped him too much. They dropped a lot of passes. I don't trust Kaepernick, even though I think he's talented. I need to see it from him. What do you expect from him in that Packers game?
I expect them, they'll know Green Bay's defense very well. I expect them to give them a lot of easy reads. I expect them to be very effective making the big plays. I think they know who Kaepernick is. I think the lights up in Seattle affected him a little bit. They kind of have a sense of that now. I think he'll be able to have enough easy reads in the game where he'll know what he's doing with the football, and if he doesn't, he's going to throw it away. And I think that's who the 49ers are. They know if they punt, they can live for another day, but Kaepernick gives them a chance for big plays, and I think that's what you'll see out of them.
Is Seattle better than both of those teams?
Well, look, Seattle took a devastating injury last night. I mean, losing Chris Clemens, if that's true as an ACL, it hurts Seattle tremendously.
Tremendously. So you feel like, but they can put in Bruce Irvin.
Well, but when you had Irvin and you had Clemens coming off the edge, boy, you had something now. You really had something. And Red Bryant is really a good player, and I've been promoting Red Bryant for years here, but
yeah,
he's a really good player, but he's not the kind of rusher that you had when you had Irwin and Clemens coming off the edges. They'll have to find somebody else, but they're resilient, and they play well. They're physical, and they match up really, really well against Atlanta because everything Atlanta can't do on defense, Seattle does really well. I mean, Atlanta can't play run defense on first down. Seattle can run the ball on first down. Atlanta gives up big plays. That's what Seattle likes to do, is run big plays. Atlanta can't really rush the passer. That's what Seattle can probably, they'll protect and let Russell Wilson win. This is going to be one of those games where Atlanta's going to have to play their best because in the areas where they've been deficient, that's where Seattle's strong.
I thought that was a spectacular last 3 quarters by the Seahawks. And I know Griffin was hurt, but you think like you're down 14-0 on the road. the way that crowd was, you have a field goal kicker who's on a bad wheel, which all the signs were there for one of those just terrible playoff losses where they look back and go, wow, every single thing that could have went wrong in that game did. And the big drive was when they got that first field goal. I think it was 3rd and 12. I was watching with a couple people.
Yeah.
Wilson got chased out of the pocket. Wilson still didn't look comfortable yet. I think he had a little bit of playoff nerves. He threw a pass that wasn't that great. Zach Wilson
Miller
basically
made a great catch. Yeah.
picked it off his feet and then ran for the first down and got them going and kind of saved the game for them. If they don't get that pass, I think Washington wins that game by like 30.
Well, I don't know, because after that, after Washington's first 2 drives, they got 129 yards. They got 203 for the game. So once Seattle got settled down, once they figured out to handle the edges, and obviously RG3 wasn't 100%, we know this, so that made it a lot easier to solve those problems. Once they were able to do that, then I thought they had full command of the game, and look, they fumbled on the 1-inch line going in.
Right. No, but I'm saying, I think the game would have gotten away from them at that point. I just think from a momentum standpoint,
it could have.
You're down 14-0. You've just screwed up another easy series. They have the ball again, probably on the 40. And even there was another play right after that. I think it was 14-3 at that point when Griffin, when he got stripped, but he had that guy wide open going down the field, Banks. He'd done that move. Remember that play?
Yeah.
And if he hadn't gotten stripped, that guy was open by 30 yards. The Seahawks did catch a couple breaks, as weird as that sounds. And obviously Griffin getting re-injured was a big break. But on the other hand, I don't know how much of a break that is. You have a guy who was already hurt playing on a field that was a disaster. What did the Redskins think was going to happen? What was your take on that? On just the field part of that situation.
I thought the field was really bad. I thought it was promoting player safety, and I know they say, well, that's the home team. Yeah, they have to take care of it. I thought that field was really bad. I thought it was bad. Now, I know it's hard to grow grass in the Northeast in January, and certainly I know nothing about anything when it comes to lawn care and all that. But that being said, it looked bad. It looked like it was just painted green. It wasn't a field. And you could see early in the game how they were slipping. The play over on the first drive when RG3 ran towards out of bounds and he almost got hit.
Right.
That was a problem. And so it hasn't been good.
It wasn't. It was a huge factor in that game. And the other factor, as the game went along, it became pretty clear that Griffin, who was already at 80%, had now dropped down. I didn't think Cousins was a realistic possibility until later in the game, and that's when we started talking about it when we were watching the game. So other people felt like he should have come out in the second quarter, which I think is just total second guessing. At what point did you start thinking Kirk Cousins needs to come into this game?
Well, I kind of, I'm from the school of if a player's not 100% healthy and it's kind of handicapping his ability to play, then I think you're better off playing a backup. Yeah. And if the backups had any success, I think you're better off. And, yes, I think they needed RG3, but I think they needed somebody that was healthy. And I think, once during the week, you certainly give him an opportunity to go out there and play, but I think you had to determine that he was less than 100% quickly, and the speed of the game. Remember, we talked about it last week. What did Seattle have on defense? Speed.
Yeah.
Seattle's edges, what do they have? Fast. Their Mike linebacker. Everybody's fast. If you go out there and you're not fast, it's not going to be good. It's going to be hard, and it's going to be tough to make plays. And so, look, I'm not second-guessing either. I'm just saying I didn't watch practice all week in Washington, so I didn't know where RG3 was. I think if you want to second-guess anything, perhaps you second-guess the fact that maybe they shouldn't have brought him back as early as they did and let him rest, but maybe they wouldn't have been here if they did. Maybe they wouldn't have won any, maybe they wouldn't have won those games down the stretch without him.
Yeah, my whole thing is I'm always from the school of you should do what the other team wouldn't want you to do. And I think this goes when it's 4th and short or whether you're going for it on 4th and goal from the 1. And this is what bothered me so much. It didn't end up hurting the Packers, but there was that play when it was 4th and goal from the 1, and they kicked a field goal. And it's like, what is the downside of going for it here? You either score a touchdown, you have Aaron Rodgers, who's one of the best 3 quarterbacks in football, or you don't get it, and Joe Webb's on his own 1-yard line and can't complete a pass. To me, there's no choice. You just go for it. And if I'm a Viking fan, I'm really happy that they kick a field goal there. And this goes back to what, if I'm a Seahawks fan, And I already know that Kirk Cousins has come into the game and done stuff during the course of the season and has shown the ability to lead a touchdown drive. That's who I'm afraid of in the fourth quarter. I'm not afraid of Griffin limping around when he was obviously hurt. So
yeah, I think it's, look, I think, could Christian Ponder have tried to throw the ball in that game and given a decoy of it? Yeah, probably. But once Green Bay would have figured out he had no game, they would have adjusted. And I think the same thing, and that's why they went with Webb. The results weren't very good. And I think that's the same thing with RG3. I think once they saw on that first couple drives and they got their edges handled, they're able to play much better and keep the outside zone from giving them a problem, then all of a sudden, because they knew the quarterback wasn't really going to beat them, they could challenge, and they were set up perfectly. I mean, the way they play defense with their corners, the way they're physical with their corners, it was going to become problematic for Washington to have a good passing game. Remember, last time they won, RG3 only had 9 completions against Dallas.
Right. Well, and the
Dallas
other thing,
was running out of healthy bodies, too, in that game.
Yeah, and also Seattle moved the ball the last 3 quarters. They did whatever they wanted. If Lynch doesn't fumble on the 1-yard line, they score 31 points.
Yeah, Seattle had control of the game. I mean, that once Seattle got the pace of the game and the call, how they handled, they got control of the game and they were able to take it over. And now this week they play without one of their best players, who is Chris Clemens.
Yep.
And we'll see how it handles that and how they play. But they set up to play Atlanta in a way to where they're built to play them very well. The other thing about the game is, and we talk about RGA, but I think when the Redskins watch the game, I think they'll see so many players slipping and sliding on that field. That has to concern them as well.
Yeah.
The injury factor to RG3 is a concern, but I'm watching the tape in my office today, and there's guys slipping and sliding. It looked like an ice rink out there.
And if you're Seattle, you have those 2 big cornerbacks to throw on Jones and White. You could make a case they might be the single best possible secondary to throw against those Atlanta guys, and because on top of it you have Earl Thomas just running around like a maniac. They're
going to make Matt Ryan have to throw the ball with an uncomfortable pocket into tight windows, and he's capable of doing it, and they're capable of winning one-on-one matchups because they are good receivers on the outside. But it's going to have to be 60 minutes, 60 plays. It's going to be a fight.
So the 4 games? Pats, Denver, both big favorites. Niners, field goal favorite over Green Bay. And then you have Falcons, Seahawks. I think the Falcons are 2.5.
Yeah, I think this round is always the home teams usually dominate this round, if I'm not mistaken. So I like all the home teams except I like Seattle and Atlanta.
So we're probably aligned. I could see myself talking myself into the Packers. I need to study them a little more closely.
I think that's a toss-up. I think that's a toss-up for me. But I think San Francisco, I think they're ready. This is what they put Kaepernick in for. This is why they're playing him, and I think this is why I think he can win it.
Well, has Kaepernick had – what's like the biggest game he's ever played in?
Well, I think the 49er game, when they went back to Patriots, that was the biggest game, and then they had to come back the next week and play Seattle. Those two, that's – look, I think people misconstrue this. When you have a young team, and the Niners have elements of a young team and a young quarterback, it's really difficult to get your players up really high after you've played a big game. And I'll tell you, another example is the Patriots. I mean, they play a big game against Houston. They play really well, and the next week they come out flat in the first half. It's hard to play those games emotionally that high all the time. I mean, and I can remember sitting there with Belichick, with Bob Knight at this restaurant in Bloomington, Indiana, and he went through this whole scenario about how sometimes you're better off just if you could seclude the team from everything out when you're in these crunch times and these moments of really hard parts of the season, that you would probably be better off because then they wouldn't read the press clippings, they wouldn't believe how good they are, they wouldn't talk about the game. You could just almost go to the next game, and it's hard to get that element built in your locker room. That's a very challenging thing for a coach.
That might have been your best name drop in the history of the BS Report. That was great. Belichick and Bob Knight in some steakhouse and talking about.
No, we were in some coffee. Gil Brandt was sitting right there too. We were sitting in some coffee house there. It was some place where Coach Knight used to love to go. It was the best times of my life because at the combine we go down there and spend time. I just sat there with a notepad, just started writing stuff Coach Knight said. I don't even think he knew I was at the table. I was just taking notes. I learned more about anything there. It was incredible. But
Bobby Knight. The guy who told Portland GM Stu Inman to draft Michael Jordan, and he said, no, I can't. We need a center. And Knight said to him, well, play him at center. You can't pass this kid up. That's Bobby Knight. He was the only one who knew of Jordan over Bowie.
Yeah.
Anyway,
but but that to me is, and he got the concept, and I've never forgotten that. And it's hard. You look at the schedule. I call it the Bob Knight game. I mean, it's the next game after you play an emotional game. You worry about it.
Oh, I love it. You just created another saying, the Bob Knight game. I like it. Mike Lombardi, we will check you out on NFL Network, and we will read you on NFL.com. As always, a pleasure. We'll talk to you
All right,
next
Bill.
week.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Take care. We're going to take a little break, hear from a sponsor. We will come back with Cousin Sal.
Start your 2013 right at Subway with your own twist on turkey, like the surprisingly low-fat turkey melt. Get it made just the way you say, still 7 grams of fat. Just one bite, and you're in Turkeytopia. You so got it made. Subway. Eat fresh.
All right, let's bring them in. We already guessed the lines this weekend via email because it's just too hard to avoid the lines when you live in the world of social media and 24-hour sports networks. He's here anyway. Our friend Cousin Sal, what's happening?
Yeah, I'm getting tweets like halftime of the Ravens-Colts game about Ravens-Broncos. Like, I just can't look at this because I want to keep this legit as this contest is boiling down. It's getting close between you and me.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Hey, how'd you do from a gambling standpoint in round one?
I did all right. I was 3. My props were terrible that I listed on Grantland, but I was 3-0 going into that last game, and I think you and I both think the same way, and we get criticized as like there's some cosmic force that knows the 3 home teams covered or 3 favorites covered going into that last game. But were you a little more nervous? I lost the last game and you won it, but were you a little more nervous?
No,
favorites won.
It's funny because we had the same picks on Saturday, and then I had Indy, you had Baltimore, and then you had Washington, I had Seattle.
Right.
And we had the same logic, like, oh no, four favorites can't cover. And I just thought Indy was the one I had the worst feel on out of those 4, so I just grabbed the points. But I actually really thought Seattle was better. And that game starts out, and all of a sudden it's 14-0. I'm like, oh man, look at this. Yet again, the 4 favorites can't cover. It's just impossible. Yeah. And then Seattle went, and I can't remember 4 round 1 favorites covering. I'm sure it's happened, but I just can't remember that happening.
I can't remember either. And, I wrote about this in your run and shoot on Grantland today. It seemed it was pretty lackluster the weekend, wouldn't you say? Like,
it was terrible.
It took 2.5 games. Like, I was trying to think of from a standpoint, if I brought a guy in from Europe who was had never seen football before, I'm like, all right, watch all these games with me. Like, that first game, it just the theme, I think, was both teams trying to give the game away to the other team,
Yeah.
And that was certainly the case, I think, with Cincinnati, Houston. And then, like, Green Bay did just enough to win. Like, I think they knew they didn't have to pour it on after, Joe Webb. It's asking a lot for him to get his feet frozen in Lambeau on a Saturday night. But, and then, same thing with Baltimore, Indy, just like field goals and stalled drives. And it wasn't until, like, Bolden emerged as like a superstar. And I was like, all right, let's kick this weekend into gear. And then that last game was great, I thought.
Yeah, the last game was really compelling. The first 3 games just didn't have a lot of good players.
Right.
They had talent, but it's just they didn't have a lot of guys who were, like even J.J. Watt, who was getting double teamed the whole game. But that first game, that Houston-Cincy, was one of the worst round 1 playoff games ever. I was actually bored. I was like, I grabbed my son's 3DS and I was playing Super Mario 2 while I was watching it. I was just bored. And
can you bet on that, or you just have to get through it?
Did I bet on Super Mario?
Yeah,
or did I bet on? Yeah, I bet on both. I parlayed World 5 with the Texans.
Wow.
And then having to sweat out the cover, even though the Bengals had played so poorly.
Yeah.
And somehow they have it first down on like the 40, and it was like just crying for the classic Marvin Lewis kick the field goal.
Yep.
And then try to get a stop. I was like, really? Are they're gonna lose by 3 and cover?
Yeah.
And that didn't happen. And then the next game, obviously terrified of Joe Webb, because just memories of him coming in and doing crazy things, and then it took like 5 plays to watch, and you're like, oh, all right, well, he's not going to do anything.
And then through 3, but you also got the feeling if there was an extra quarter, he could bring. They almost covered too, right? They came down.
Yeah, he had to fall behind by 21 to start feeling comfortable.
Yeah.
it's funny. I was actually going to stay home. There was a Warriors-Clippers game that night, and I made my wife take my daughter because I wanted my daughter to go. I thought it was going to be a good game.
Right.
And I was like, no, I got to stay home. There's going to be a great football game that night. It's going to be an awesome game. And by like second quarter, I'm like, yeah, I'm taking her. I don't need to stay for this. Had no idea the backdoor cover was in play. What did they have, like a pseudo Hail Mary at the end?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh,
They
man.
threw them all the way down.
Oh, God. I mean, that was probably the most exciting moment of the weekend.
Yeah, I guess so, from a gambler standpoint. Now, here's the thing. This weekend. Now, I said to you, I don't know if you want people to know it. I think you're going to Vegas for a day.
Oh, yeah, this week I am, yeah.
Now, I said to you, listen, I'm going to give you my welcome back Carter lunchbox. Stuff it with cash.
Right.
You're going to put it on a 2-team money line parlay. Broncos, Patriots, just to win. And then I started doing some research, and it's a bad idea.
Yeah.
And if you take anything from this podcast, it's that beware of divisional playoff week, especially now that Vegas is getting clobbered.
Yeah.
They did all year, and all 4 favorites won this weekend.
Oh, yeah.
Vegas is about to clobber us back. Let me just go through some of these numbers. 2013, 2012, January, Giants beat the Packers this round.
Yep.
No one saw that coming. 2011, Jets beat the Patriots.
Yep.
2010, Jets beat the Chargers.
Right.
2009, the Cards trounced the Panthers. Like, they crushed them. 2008, Chargers beat the Colts. And it goes back further and further. And there are other upsets, too, like 3 and 4 points, like the Eagles beating the Giants in Giant Stadium and games like that. But just be careful. That's all I'm saying to anyone listening out.
Well, that's the old Marty Schottenheimer. The round 2 home team giving like 8.
Yeah.
You're feeling great, and then they lose like 20-10, and you feel like a moron because you teased them, parlayed with them with 5 different games. I agree with you. I actually think it could be Baltimore as the team that could screw this whole thing up. Denver's feeling great about themselves, and they've been playing well. They've had this win streak, and now you have this Baltimore team that actually looked pretty good as that Indy game went on.
Well, and not to mention, and we both guessed the lines already, so it doesn't matter. The 2 big favorites, Denver and New England, both crushed their opponents this year.
Right.
So that's even further incentive to get screwed over. But I hate to say it, but I'm looking the other way. I know you think the Texans are spent, and Foster had like 40 touches and stuff, but I would look out if I were you.
Oh, I'm looking out.
Yeah.
Don't worry, my guard's up.
All right.
Yeah, if they get, it all comes down to whether Houston can get the lead, and then start doing the things that everybody else does when they beat the Patriots. You run the ball, you slow the clock down. I don't think they can play from behind to beat us, though.
No.
I think they need the lead, and they need to run the ball a lot and not turn the ball over and harass Brady. There's a recipe to do it.
I think, and I agree, I think Houston, surprisingly, who was staring at a number 1 seed a couple weeks ago, Houston and I would say San Fran are the 2 teams that can't play from behind this week. I think, and from behind, I say if San Fran gets down 10, I think they're in a lot of trouble.
I agree. Seattle has proven that they can come back.
Yeah.
They've done it a bunch of times this year now.
Even Baltimore, I think.
Baltimore can throw deep.
Yeah.
I thought Flacco, Lombardi and I just talked about, I thought Flacco was good in that game. He made some really nice throws.
He was. I mean, like a 45 and 41-yarder to Bolden, the third quarter, late in the third.
Yeah. So some nice, and it's funny because in the first quarter he looked terrible.
Yeah.
And I was really feeling good about the Colts pick, especially it was 3-3, and then that Ray Rice midfield screen was just flipped the game.
Yeah, and then Ray Rice fumbles, and there was just so much. There's so many. They were trying to give it back to you. You're trying to give it back to them.
Yeah.
It was a weird week.
I thought the Colts were going to cover until Vinatieri missed the 40-yarder.
That was strange.
And then because it would have been 17-12.
Right.
Then that's the final.
Yeah. Right.
But then it just wasn't going to happen. Hey, did you know that yesterday was Ray Lewis's last game at home?
I've had enough. I've had about enough. And I urge people to go back and read the police report. I'm not sure we should be celebrating.
Too soon.
No, too soon. Honestly, I was reading the girlfriend burned the clothes.
Come on.
What a time. This is on public record.
Bad choice in Friends.
Oh, accused of punching multiple women before the.
No.
Let's see him dance some more.
Come on.
Let's see him dance. What a good guy.
He's a changed guy.
What a good guy. I'll say all this to his face too. Bring him out.
There's no way you'll say it to his face.
Probably not. No.
I I thought the dance after the game ended was a little excessive. I was in on everything else.
Yeah.
It was just like, all right, take your helmet off and shake hands.
Yeah. I mean, they talk about Ted Williams going into the war and, it cost him 200 home runs.
Yeah.
Is that what they do in that game?
Yeah.
Ray Lewis, he's the opposite of that. He could have been in prison. He could have been in the clink for the last dozen years.
There was a fair legal process, and they decided he didn't need to spend jail time.
Let's see you dance. All right, free, innocent.
Well, I can say I liked watching him play football. Yeah. I could say that even before ESPN apparently signed him, I thought he was going to be a spectacular TV guy.
Oh, he'll be good.
I haven't felt this confident about somebody on TV since Barkley.
Yeah.
Barkley was the last guy that I was just I even wrote a whole column about it before he retired about like this is the guy. And I feel like in football there's no signature guy.
Yeah.
There's no guy that's just like, oh, that guy's awesome. I can't wait to hear that guy again. And he could be the guy.
Yeah.
He's
he will
really
be
great.
Entertaining, and there'll be a threat of an assault for every pregame show or wherever they stick him.
Come on.
I'm telling you, it'll be good. He'll get hot. They'll get him mad. I look honestly. I think it's magic. I watch him looking at you when you're talking about like Dwayne Wade.
You think Magic's just gonna assault me?
I think he wants to kill you sometimes. I really do. I look at him. He's like, you never played the game. You better shut your damn mouth.
It'd be great. It'd be the best thing for our show if he punched me.
I love it.
I love doing it. I gotta say, I love Magic Johnson. I think it really kind of scares me as a Celtics fan, like how much I like him as a person.
Oh, really?
I'm really scared. Yeah.
You're gonna feel the same way about Kobe in like 3 years.
Magic's the best because you can get him riled up.
Yeah.
We'll get him riled up in the green room. He was so mad about D'Antoni and Gasol. And Gasol 25 feet. And I was like, we got to talk about it. We just have to. And he's like, yeah, we should. We should talk about this. Gets fired up. He's the best.
He's fun.
All right, let's guess the lines, even though we already know them.
All right, let's do it. So Saturday, we start off Baltimore at Denver.
Yeah, how'd you feel about the how they decided what the schedule was?
Well, they did this ahead of time, right? We knew New England was playing late Sunday, right when they had last week's games.
Is that how they do it?
Oh, yeah. We knew who was going to be. We knew exactly who was home.
Because I thought that was a pretty tough draw for Baltimore.
What do you mean? For this week coming up?
Yeah, because they played Sunday at home.
Yeah.
Now that's Saturday afternoon. It's 5 days rest basically.
True. They get screwed the most after travel.
Because when you think like Houston played on Saturday, I thought New England Houston was going to be the Saturday game.
Well, I don't know why, but Green Bay San Fran, they knew that was going to be a good game no matter what.
Well, they knew that needed to be night. So
that was going to be the night game. So saying that, Seattle had the most travel problems because they're not going from where did they just go? From Washington to Atlanta. They're going from Washington to Seattle to Atlanta. So they had to give them the extra.
Yeah, but it still doesn't explain why New England, Houston. Oh, I guess because you can't do Denver as the early game on Sunday. All right, I get it.
Can't do that.
Okay, I get it.
All right, so Baltimore at Denver. You said 8.5. I said 9.5. We split this. As of this morning, it's 9.
Yeah.
What do you think it'd be? Yeah.
I think it's the right line, but it's a little high. Baltimore could win the game. I'm not saying they will, but they could win the game. So what's the money line? Like plus 300?
I haven't looked. Yeah, I think it is like plus 260 or something. Yeah. But I mean, in terms of, and we'll get to it because it's early Sunday, but in terms of the other 1 versus 4 seeds, it does seem a little high if you look at it like that. Atlanta, Seattle is not 9. Let's just say that.
Yeah, I do like this Denver team, and I think they're the AFC favorites. Though I think most likely they're going to take care of business at home. Flacco's a wild card because he did it against the Pats too. He made good throws in the playoff game last year against the Pats. He's weird. Yeah. Most of the time you have no confidence in him, but he will hit these little zones where you all of a sudden you're like, wow, that guy's pretty good.
Yeah.
So
I just think their offense is going to be too fast for them. I think say what you want about Ray Lewis. How great would that have been if that horrible drop that you and any of our kids could have made, that catch, if that meant something? Oh, it would have been the greatest. Should we go to the second game?
Well, he's in his defense, he tore his triceps like a week ago.
That's true.
And he was somehow playing again, even though usually that ends everyone else's season. Wow, is everybody not talking about that? I don't understand it. I just don't understand how he's playing again.
How he should. Yeah, I know.
Ty Warren tore his triceps on Denver and was out for the year.
Yeah.
Came back, tore the other tricep, and then was out for the year again.
Mm-hmm.
Ray Lewis tore his tricep, and he is back in 5 weeks.
Yeah.
I don't understand.
No,
It'd be like if Derrick Rose blew out his ACL, an injury that normally knocks you out for the year, and he came back 5 weeks later. We would all think this was really weird.
Listen, he's a tough guy, and he burned all his clothes.
Apparently.
The night of. All right, I won't even.
I mean, I'm a huge wimp because if I have any injury, I'm out for 10 times longer than I'm supposed to be.
Yeah.
So the thought of tearing my triceps and then even like trying to type 6 months later scares me.
Right. But I think Peyton exposes him and some of the older weaker elements in the middle there, I think.
Well, that was my biggest disappointment. Lombardi and I talked about this. I didn't think Indianapolis went after him enough in Peyton because he lost the ability to cover people over the middle 3 years ago.
Right.
And they have 2 tight ends. I thought they were going to be sending those guys over the middle over and over again, and they didn't.
One thing is that pass rush was pretty spectacular. That's what Buck had to scramble around, didn't have a chance a lot of times. So
yeah, he was pretty good.
Helped himself out.
I don't know if it was spectacular because the Ravens are good or because the Colts had a Swiss cheese offensive line, though. We do.
Yeah. All right, Green Bay at San Fran.
Saturday night.
Great game.
Do we get Gus Johnson for either of these games?
Not this one, I don't think. Right?
Well, if they have 2 Fox games.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I hope Gus is involved. Green Bay at San Francisco. I think I said, what did I say?
You said 3.5.
I said 3.5. Yeah.
I thought it was going to be low. I figure everyone's going to be on Green Bay's side. A lot of boosters there. -3 is the line, so you get that one. That's probably perfect, -3. That's what I say.
I don't think that's quite enough respect for the Niners, but I get it. The Packers are a public team.
Mm-hmm.
People like betting on them. People trust Aaron Rodgers, rookie QB, or is he rookie? Second-year QB, but he's basically a rookie QB. Kaepernick.
Yeah.
It's fair. I get it. I think it could go to 3.5, though.
I'm just like we talked about. I think I like the Niners in this game. I really do, but I'm deathly afraid of them going down 10 points. What do you do in that situation?
Yeah, and this is the toughest one. Last week for me, Indy-Baltimore was the toughest one.
Yeah.
This week it's this one because you could talk me in either direction.
Yep.
And also I said this to Lombardi. I do think the best 4 teams are Denver, New England, Seattle, and San Francisco, and I felt that way dating back to the last few weeks. They just said those were the 4 teams that jumped out.
Yeah.
Green Bay, I don't have a feel for whether they're on that level or not.
I agree. Their running game was a little better than I thought it would be the other night, but
it does seem like you can really harass Rodgers, which makes me nervous in San Francisco. The Justin Smith injury is a pretty big one, though.
Sure.
And their defense hasn't looked the same to me since he got hurt.
Yeah.
Then you have the whole Terrell Owens catch thing from way back.
Oh,
There's a little history with these 2 teams,
right,
which always makes me nervous.
Yeah. Well, the one thing I'll say is Green Bay's got this is the healthiest their wide receiver corps has been and will be.
Yes.
Michael Finley, the tight end, looks actually like a normal tight end here.
Then you have the Randy Moss going against the Packers part of the whole game, which is fun. Yeah.
Right.
Then you have the whole Niners killed them in week 1 thing.
Yep. That was the first game. Yeah, I don't know. I might flip a coin for this one.
I know I like Seattle in the other game, so that would mean taking 2 underdogs in round 2 makes me nervous.
Well, let's go to that. That's Sunday. That's the first game, Seattle at Atlanta. You said 3. I said 4.5. I was thinking 1 seed versus 4 seed.
Big mistake.
It's down to 2.5.
Yeah. Seattle's good.
You get that.
Seattle's a really good team.
I know, but it's a 1 seed versus 4. Look at the other one versus 4. I know. Everyone hates Atlanta. I get it.
I actually think this line could drop.
Yeah.
I think this could be a pick'em or even Seattle by 1 by the end of the week.
1 versus 5 seed, by the way. I thought I said 4.
Yeah, 1
You think it'll
versus
go that low, huh? Wow.
I do. I think Seattle's better.
Well,
I think Atlanta can win, but I think Seattle's better.
Not only do you say it's better, you called it from the beginning. And this would only be a shame And, you know, when Marshawn Lynch is scooping up a fumble with one hand and running for 15 yards when it should have gone 6 the other way, could have been 21-0. Really, those are the kinds of plays that make you think, all right, that's the team. That's the team that's going to win. Now, when we talked last week, they were 9-1. For some reason,
They're 8-1. I look.
Only 8-1.
See, now I think the odds are good.
Now we should take them.
Well, think about it.
Yeah.
So this game, if this goes to pick 'em,
I think they won't be a bigger underdog than +3 the next two games. If
in
they go
either place,
Right.
so they'd be like +140.
Mhm.
And then in the Super Bowl, I think no matter who they're playing, that line's not higher than 3.5.
Right now, the AFC is favored by 3, but yeah, I agree. If they get that far, it couldn't be.
So what is
It might
Pick'em? What's Pick'em times +140 times +140
All right,
for a
let me-
parlay?
yeah, let me put it because you're not going to believe this, but I have this app in my phone. So
I can't believe it. What is that? What's that app called?
I don't know. It's called Parlay Calculator.
It's called Gambling Problem.
They just have an 800 number here. All right. Well, what did we say? Even and 2 plus 140s?
Yeah, let's say that to be safe.
All right.
Boy, this is exciting.
Okay. And what do we want to put down?
That gambling app should sponsor this podcast,
I know.
or at least be one of the sponsors.
Oh, wow. It's 10.5-1 if you do it that way.
Oh, see, there you go.
But that's saying if they're, yeah, all right. I
Because
guess.
the odds for the other two games ain't changing, and the only way it changes is if Baltimore makes the Super Bowl, and then
Yeah.
Seattle will be favored. But if you think Denver and New England's making
Yeah, if they go to Green Bay or San Fran, it's going to, one of those teams has to be favored by a couple or 3. Yeah, you're right. But here's the thing. I know we should just bet them now and then ride it, but isn't it more fun to tell your friends, yeah, we had Seattle 10-1 2 weeks ago, or 8-1.
Is there anyone over 10-1?
Oh, yeah.
Who?
Baltimore and Houston, both 20-1.
Yeah, but even then, those odds don't make sense.
Yeah. Atlanta 8-1, Green Bay 7, San Fran 5. Here's what gets me. Denver 3-1, New England 7-2. They were 2 and 2.5-1 last week. They didn't play, and the odds went up.
Oh, that's interesting. I wonder why.
So you're not going to get better than that for either of those teams if you want.
They should make it more fun to do future odds.
Yeah. And Luck -110 versus RG3, who's even for Rookie of the Year.
Don't you think they'll split that somehow? The NFL will figure out a way.
Are they allowed to do that? They do that?
Well, it's
Yeah.
not. I wouldn't put it above the NFL to rig anything.
No.
That was totally underrated part of yesterday's game. The long Roger Goodell Ray Lewis hug.
Oh yeah.
Did you see that?
Yeah.
It's time for a new commissioner. It just is.
You think it was a hug, or was he just squeezing him so he couldn't get away?
He's holding him.
It was against his will. Yeah.
I
You hate him. I know.
I really I don't like him.
Yeah.
I don't like him. I rarely feel strongly about not liking a sports figure when you're supposed to be impartial, but I just think he's such a phony.
Yeah.
I can't wait until he goes to New Orleans for Super Bowl week and tries to suck up to everybody in New Orleans for a week, because everybody there's going to just hate him.
Well, we're going to be there.
Oh, yeah, we're going to be there. We should talk about it. Let's talk about that after the last line.
We will.
Okay.
Let me just, before we leave Seattle, of course, your hero, your boy, Russell Wilson. You were at the game. You called me from the game. You
I
don't
went to
remember?
the game? I don't
Yeah.
even remember this. I
Or
thought
you-
I was in Los Angeles.
Stop it. Stop playing stupid. You called me from the game. I guess it was a few hours after. Hold on. I have the call right here. The message. Hold on.
Cousin Sal, Sportious Guy here, calling you from Washington, D.C., the nation's capital of the free world, where my hero, my soulmate, my kindred spirit, my sweetheart, Russell Wussel, Hustle and Bustle Man Muscle Wilson, just led the Seahawks to victory. I was at the game watching as Russ threw for 187 yards and a touchdown, then ran for 67 yards, then swam on the ground for another 15 yards. He flew through the air for another 20. My boy can do it all. And I got to be honest, I was freezing my ass off from my seat in the mezzanine, and the only thing that kept me warm was the thought of me and Russ consummating our relationship on the top of the Lincoln Memorial. I got to say, after watching Fred Lynn beat a homeless man to death with a Louisville Slugger, it was the most incredible experience I'd ever had in my life. The only downfall was that I got a little of my love liquid on Daniel Day-Lewis's top hat. I cannot tell a lie. That was me. Maybe that was the other president who said that. But anyway, Next week we have bigger plans. After we beat the Falcons in Atlanta, Russell Hustle and Bustle Man Muscle is going to put a baby in me, like Kanye did for Kim. Yes, indeed. We're going to make sweet, sweet black man and white metrosexual man love on top of a dumpster outside the Waffle House. And that's how our son, Waffle Wilson, will be born. That's right, OK Magazine. Go ahead and print up the birth announcements. Waffle Wilson, sports guy, over and out, gone.
Ridiculous.
Do you think Russell Wilson and I we should merge our names like Brangelina or Kimye?
Yeah, definitely. What would it be?
I don't know. Wilson.
Let's go.
Wilson. Russell Wilson.
Ooh.
I don't know.
Will Sims.
I do feel directly. I feel direct emotion into all of the good things that happen to Russell Wilson.
This could be great. If we go to the Super Bowl and you have Goodell and you have Russ Wilson, what a week it could be.
Here's where I screwed up, and this is somebody pointed this out to me. My Super Bowl prediction was Baltimore and Seattle.
Yeah.
Why did I pick Indy in round one? I should have just ridden the Baltimore thing.
Oh yeah.
And rooted for that to happen because I never picked other teams.
Right.
I just could have kept it going. Instead, like a moron, I got swept up in Chuck Strong and
I don't know. You
scared of Baltimore, and I switched to Indy. And I wish I had kept that going.
Yeah. All right. Well, your team is still alive, and your pick is still alive, so I don't feel too bad.
He's really good at football. He really is. He's a really good quarterback.
He's damn good. I'm wondering if he's better on the turf even. Like they're just better than Atlanta. Atlanta might win, but I'm trying to figure out how it would happen.
Well, Atlanta would have to make big plays.
Yeah.
And I know that's a really obvious statement, but they would have to. They need a couple. This is how they've been doing it. Those 70-yard Julio Jones touchdown.
And Roddy White, yeah.
Yeah, the end of the half when they're on the 40 and Roddy White just jumps over 5 guys, and that's the kind of stuff I think they need to do.
And Clemens being out, which I'm sure he will be out. It's sort of.
Yeah, Lombardi felt like that was a big deal.
Yeah, I think so too. But I do feel like this team could catch up. Like that was going to be a more hostile environment against the Redskins. And whether RG3, I'm sure you and Lombardi talked about it, but Shanahan made the right decision, right? You got to leave him in there.
I would have we were arguing about it when we were watching it. I thought in the fourth quarter he should have gone with Cousins because it became obvious that Griffin couldn't do anything.
But the problem is the score. The fourth quarter was still 14-13, right? That was when Seattle was trying to give it back to Washington. And I always look at the worst case scenario for both ends. The worst case scenario with Griffin starting is basically what happened. He took a horrible sack.
Yeah.
And then just crumbled on a ball that was snapped to him and he couldn't recover the fumble. The worst case scenario the other way is Cousins comes in up 14-13, throws a pick six. I don't know if Shanahan has a job. I'm sure he doesn't have a house after that because it's burned down by the
I never seriously thought about it until they went down 21-14.
Yeah.
And then at that point, I felt like the Seahawks had clinched the game. I didn't think there was any way the Redskins could go down the field and score with Griffin the way he was moving around. So,
and I like RG3, and I
did too. He was
I like hearing him in press conferences, but I think he goes a little too far with the. I mean, here's Shanahan sticking his neck out for him. It's like, yeah, it was my decision, and blame it on me if you want to, but hurt versus injured, all that stuff. But then for RG3 to say, I was going to go in either way if he told me not to, it's like, all right, he's still the coach.
Yeah.
Calm down a little bit.
Yeah, it's one of those things. Social media doesn't help with that stuff. Everybody gets you go over the top one way or the other with it. Like I saw a couple tweets, like people are like, Mike Shanahan should be arrested.
Wow.
It's like, no, he shouldn't. This isn't child labor. Robert Griffin's a 23-year-old guy. It's
not to mention
it's not forcing him to play.
It's not the same thing by any means. But how about living in Washington where they shut down Stroudsburg?
Yeah.
And lost in a winnable season. Right? A couple miles away down the block.
Well, I guess the other part is that the field was in such bad shape that you combine that with how badly he was moving. And it's too bad because I don't know who wins that game if he's healthy because I do think there's something magical about him, too.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that becomes one of the great playoff games ever if he's healthy. So anyway, let's go to Pat's Texans.
Last game, Houston, New England. I said 8.5. You said 9. You got it right on the button. 9 it is. So now let me just tell you what that means for our thing. You are now 8, 9, and 2. With 2 weeks left. I'm getting nervous here.
So I could finish it next week. I could tie it, and we come down to the Super Bowl.
I don't know. I don't like this one bit, but.
I think it's a fair line.
Yeah.
I think you're right. I mean, maybe the play is, I wouldn't do this because I don't want to be against the Pats, but maybe you just go Texans money line and Ravens money line in separate bets, try to hit one of them.
Yeah, if you take the points, you're going to at worst split, I think. I don't think Vegas is going to pay out too many more of these games.
Or the other way to go is you do the 6.5 point tees with the Pats and Broncos and just hope they both win by a field goal or more.
Yeah, that could work too.
Which I did a 6.5 point tees last week with the Packers and the Seahawks, and as it turned out, I didn't even need the points. But
everything won, unless you had the over in anything.
Yeah, I mean, the one bet that won that never wins is just the 4 favorite money lines.
Yeah, right.
That one, any combination of a 3-team tease, 10 points, I think won, right?
Sure, yeah.
Did anyone not win if you teased anything to 10 points?
Colts covered, Redskins covered.
What was the Seahawks final?
Seahawks was 24-14, so you were getting 13.
And the other weird thing is not one game went over.
No.
Another thing I did was I had the Packers to win to score the most points, 3-1 odds.
Did that happen?
Well, they had 24. 3 teams ended up with 24.
3 teams ended up with 24. My big prop was Texans over 23.5. They were the only winner that didn't have 24. 17 field goals from the 3-yard line.
So, last thing, we joked last week about house eats, you versus house in New Orleans, and Sportsbook.com decided to put a prop up, you versus house.
Yeah.
And they opened it at, what did they open it at?
130. He was minus 130. I was like minus 105.
House was a minus 130 favorite.
Mm-hmm.
So we thought, oh, that's funny. They put that up as a joke.
Yeah.
People started betting it.
Right.
It went up to House. A lot of early action on House went to minus 150.
Mm-hmm.
Then it went to minus 180, and now it's at minus 200.
It is 200?
It's at 200.
Oh, no.
People are pounding Joe House.
Let me just tell you, there's this guy, Mike, who works for this sports book, and this offshore sports book, and I hassle him because sometimes I need to get my props early for the Grantland column. And he's a big fan of ours, and he's listening, and he puts in for this prop, and they all, I don't know who, I'd love to see the round table who votes on the opening line for this. And let me just say, if people are pounding House and House beats me, this guy's going to lose his job.
Well,
lose a lot of money.
Here's the irony of this.
Yeah.
I was telling the guys this yesterday. I think you should be favored. Just because I know both of you, like House eats for the enjoyment of eating.
Yeah.
Whereas you would literally eat to the point that your small intestine bursts to not lose to House. I think people, you've become the nobody believes in us team.
Right.
I believe in you, Sal.
Thank you.
I know you'll go to any length to win this, even if it includes turning the food table on House to try to disqualify both of you.
I will use my eating utensil. I'll do whatever I need to win this. But here's the thing. There's video of House eating, courtesy of Grantland.
Right.
So that was a spectacular showing.
So there's scouting tape of House, but there's really no scouting tape of you. Now, we should mention, the only time you've gone head-to-head was in, I would say, 3 March Madnesses ago.
Yeah.
When we just got an insane amount of Chick-fil-A.
Right.
And we had so much Chick-fil-A that it was comical, and they had just boxes and boxes of these chicken nuggets. And you and House kept eating them, and at some point it just was on.
Yeah.
And you kept eating. There was no winner.
I ate the last one, and then it ended, and I left, and then I heard that House ate a bunch afterwards.
You had to leave for work. House took that as a sign of you forfeiting. And he celebrated by eating another chicken sandwich and having a donut.
That's insane.
And that's like when all of us were like, wow.
Kobayashi telling Joey Chestnut, no, after the contest, I had a pork roast. What are you talking about?
No, it was like the FUTD during the Spygate season. But that's what House did with the donut. The donut was just insane. I still can't believe that happened.
Here's what I'm going to say, though, all right? House is now taunting me. He doesn't realize he's taunting me, but he's sending us emails of what he had for breakfast. He's hitting these exotic brunches.
He's trying to get in your head.
Loading up. Yeah, but I think this is what happens. He's going to become like RG3. He's working way too hard on this, and, he's going to hurt himself, and then he's not going to be able to show up. He's trying to do too much. And when it comes down to the main event, he's gonna have overworked himself. It's gonna work.
Well, listen, we do not have a deal with Sportsbook.com. We did not know they were doing this.
Yeah.
They're not a sponsor of the podcast.
No.
They seem like nice people.
Shame on them.
I think it's really funny they put a prop on this.
Mm-hmm.
We have to now come up with a fair way to judge this, and I think we're going to have judges. And
oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I think the way to do this is
Roger
just
Goodell,
have judges.
Ray Lewis and Russell.
Ray Lewis and Roger Goodell are not going to be available for this.
All right.
But I think we have judges, and I think it's judged like figure skating or gymnastics. We just go to each judge, and they just have to decide who did a better job.
All right. Well, I do think also a round of food should just keep being brought out until one of us is going to vomit or die, right?
One of us taps out. That's the thing, though. If we do it that way, then where does it end? Because House is like a dog. Like House would just keep eating. Like there conceivably could just keep going past the Super Bowl until like NBA All-Star Weekend.
Right.
And then he'll just die.
Yeah. All right. Well, then so one of us dies.
Well, maybe that's how it has to be. Well, if you have any suggestions for if the listeners out there, if you have any suggestions for how we should judge this contest or how we should actually come up with a winner.
It'll be Super Bowl Saturday in a restaurant in New Orleans, and that's
restaurant
all we know.
TBA. But we're very excited. I cannot believe House is a 2-1 favorite.
I didn't know. Now I'm sort of mad. I didn't know it should get to 2-1. That's ridiculous.
I've personally seen you at Fogo de Chao.
Yeah.
Where it could be the red or the green.
Thank you.
I've personally seen you where the waiter had to ask you to turn your card because he was afraid for your safety.
That's right.
That's
exactly
happened.
Right.
I've witnessed that personally. So I know that you are also like a dog. You also keep eating until you
These
can't.
waiters, they had 27-inch knives, and they were afraid for my safety. Yeah. For their safety. Well, this is exciting.
All right. Because
also exciting. Let me just mention.
One last thing. This is the biggest part of the whole podcast.
This is it. We go 11:35. Jimmy Kimmel Live, 11:35. Tomorrow, Jennifer Aniston, no doubt. Ryan Gosling, Brad Paisley, Dr. Oz. Later in the week, Chris Paul, Blake Griffin. We're going to have Clippers on every week now that we're on 11:35. Research says that's good.
Yeah, the Clippers are hot now.
This is it.
Tuesday night, ABC, 11:35 p.m.
Right. Even 10:35 in some places, I heard. But, yeah, 11:35. Wow.
10 years coming. I still remember 10 years ago being in San Diego for that Super Bowl. We were launching the show, 12:06, ABC. We're thinking, like, someday maybe we get moved up. Who knows?
Listen, we couldn't have done it with you. And I mean,
no, you absolutely couldn't have done it with me.
If you had stayed, we wouldn't be here.
One of the best things that ever happened to the show is me leaving. No, this is great. I'm really excited, and I fully expect Kimmel to cry at some point during Act 1.
Thank you, yeah.
Is that, you can't even wager on that, right?
I don't know. Let's see. Maybe sportsbook.com will get it going.
It'll be great. All right. Congratulations. We'll talk to you next week.
Good job by you, Billy.
Good job by you. All right. Before we go, we have to call Joe House now. House, are you there?
I'm here.
So we just broke down. We're going to get to RG3 in a second. I know you're sad. Sal and I were just talking about this eating contest.
Oh, no.
And the fact that the odds for you climbed from -130 to 2-1. You're a 2-1 favorite now.
Oh, no.
People have been wagering you up to -200.
Somebody should tell the world that Sal wrote a column on the Grantland website, sometime in the last 6 months about his efforts at competitive eating. The brother can eat. He can put it down. I think about a time we got together for a March Madness sometime in the last
We just told this story.
Years.
Yeah, it was anybody's ball game. There were no winners.
Yeah, well, I did have 2 donuts afterwards after all the Chick-fil-A was gone. I just would like to point that out. But yeah, no, it was sandwich for sandwich. I'm very I'm approaching it as though this is going to be the eating battle of my life.
I don't blame you. And I think it's the eating battle of everyone's life. We used to have the Coney Island hot dog contest, and now we have House Eats Special New Orleans edition.
Who's sponsoring this, by the way?
Oh, we don't know yet. I don't even know.
We need a sponsor.
Come on. Remember when Rocky fought Drago for no money on Christmas Day? It was just because Drago killed Apollo, and that was
the love of the fight.
It was just he felt like he had to defend America.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is about money for us. I think it's about the pure love of your love of eating.
Let me put it this way. It's about money for me. I'm very available. Anybody, I'll wear a T-shirt, I'll wear a hat, I'll wear a tattoo, a face tattoo.
Oh man, maybe you have a robe. You have a robe sponsored by some.
You don't think that I already have my opening music lined up?
You have a robe sponsored by some Maryland car dealership.
I'm coming out to songs, brother.
All right, well, Joe House available for sponsorship. Yeah, we're trying to figure out the big thing now that people are actually wagering on this is we're trying to figure out how do we actually determine who won or lost.
Yeah, there's got to be a winner and a loser. It's serious now.
And there's two ways to do it. Either you just keep eating until somebody taps out, or we have judges. And we do a set amount, like we're going to eat now for 2.5 hours, and then the judges will determine what performance is more impressive.
Well, you can weigh the food also. That was one thing I thought about.
Weighing the food?
Yeah, who ate more by the pound.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't think of that.
Well, we'll get creative with it, though. We'll think about it. We'd have to have a winner or a loser, though. We have good, hardworking Americans spending their paychecks wagering on this thing.
Yeah.
We got to give them a winner.
Well, I mean, obviously, not just the highlight of my career, but I know it's the highlight of Jacoby's, and really maybe an ESPN highlight. Might be the best moment in ESPN history. Really think it's possible. The second episode of House Seats comes out this week.
Oh!
Yeah.
How is it?
I
lived it, but I haven't seen it.
Our editor, Harlan, is saying that he feels like it's better than the first one.
Whoa.
And felt like it could have been 3 parts. Almost like it's become his Kill Bill. He almost feels like it needs to be released in 2 different volumes.
Well, I trust Harlan. If Harlan says it's good.
Yeah. So, yesterday, at what point did you know Griffin needed to come out?
For me personally, the knee buckle prior to the second touchdown throw. That you see that knee move that way, that was it for me. I would have not had any complaint, any second guess, nothing if Cousins had come in for the remainder of the game. But
it's really hard to pull your QB when you have a lead like that.
Of course, I completely understand. I guess on the other hand, maybe that's exactly the right moment to pull your QB when you have the lead like that. They had enough evidence that followed, though, to make it clear which way the decision should go.
Yeah, I didn't feel like until they fell behind by 7, then at that point I felt like that he needed to come out.
Yeah.
Because it just didn't seem realistic he was going to score. What a terrible way for the season to end, though. I mean, seriously, it was such a fun season, such a fun winning streak, and then it just, you had the 14-0 lead, it looks great, and then it falls apart, and now it's like this whole he said, she said, everybody's mad at Shanahan. Like, could this be worse?
Well, it could be worse. We're going to get the results of the knee MRI, any minute now. I'm sure somebody knows it, and sure it could be worse. If he tore an ACL and an MCL, and he's rehabbing from, surgery next week and then rehab all the way up till September, that means he's not really playing until October, I would guess. At the earliest.
The thing is, though, that brace he was wearing, from how it's been explained to me, it's like impossible to blow out your ACL when you have that brace.
I guess we'll find out.
But I was told, that's the brace Brady was wearing after he tore his ACL. And it's like your leg will snap before you break it. That's how it was explained to me. I don't know if that's true.
Well, how about this? Did you saw both the live action and the still photos of the way his knee was bent? It looked pretty snappy to me.
Yeah, but it was a different direction than the ACL snap. Maybe I'm wrong.
Okay. Who knows?
I mean,
whatever. I pray that you are right and that I'm wrong.
What a bummer.
I'm not rooting for it.
The other thing, there's so many things that sucked about that. Just even a 90% healthy Griffin, that game would have been so much fun.
I know, that was really...
Because Wilson was bringing
heated.
it. Yeah. It's just... What a bummer.
I know. It was a bummer after a bummer on top of a bummer.
Yeah. So
Pitchers and catchers in 6 weeks.
Do you feel like the Washington sports renaissance was confined to the year 2012, and now you're back to the you were once in?
No, I have high hopes for 2013.
Okay.
I think that John Wall is going to play a professional basketball game in 2013.
Nice.
I think that Steven Strasburg might pitch 200 innings, God willing, in 2013. I think Bryce Harper is going to be terrific in either the 3-hole or the 5-hole. Or maybe even the 2-hole.
Oh.
Yeah, a lot of holes that Bryce Harper could go into. Those are all going to be
You have
exciting.
hockey? Hockey's coming back?
I'm out. I'm out on
Oh,
hockey.
come on. Don't
I'm
be
out.
like that. Don't be
I'm out.
spiteful. Don't blame
I
the
am spiteful.
fine American and Canadian hockey players and the Europeans for what happened.
I'm giving them. I'm going to
Come
take
on.
this season off.
Stop.
I'll be back next season.
No. Don't
The
be
whole
like
thing-
that, Joe House.
It's the only way to express my contempt for the owners. It doesn't have anything to do with the players. I love the players,
Come on.
but they didn't. All they did was negotiate against themselves for 6 months till the owners finally,
I think the owners wanted to miss 30 games. They were very excited about it.
Well, look, both basketball and hockey would be immensely helped by a much shortened season.
Yeah.
Right around 60 games or so.
The problem is this isn't the way to shorten the season by them playing 50 games in 2 weeks.
That's
right.
right.
These guys playing game after game after game. They're going to be.
That's why I'm out.
No, I think it's going to be fun. I'm excited that my daughter was really, really upset about it, like genuinely upset about the fact that they were going to cancel the season and didn't understand it. And I'm glad that I don't have to explain to her that sports can be evil.
Right.
I want to wait to have that conversation for 5 more years. When I'm also having the men are evil conversation. I'm going to try to team up men are evil and sports will break your heart into one giant conversation. But yeah, we get to go see the Kings raise the banner now. She's been waiting for that for 7 months. And
that's fun.
Short season, then an awesome playoffs.
Should be. I mean, it could. The basketball season last year, if that's any kind of a template, was just fantastic.
Well, and also like now the hockey playoffs goes. It's probably going to go into the beginning of July. That'll be fun. Love hockey and hockey on July 4th weekend.
It fills up some of that void, some of that summer void.
I'm excited. I miss going to hockey games. I really enjoyed it.
I like going too. And by the way, just to take the pimping to a whole other level, I'll go, but I'm not paying. So if anybody wants to offer me free tickets,
I like your mindset there.
Yeah.
I had no choice of paying because the Kings took my 2012-13 season ticket money when they made me get playoff tickets, which I was happy to do because I thought there was going to be a season.
Right.
And then they kept the money in some account that got no interest.
Of course they
It's
did.
one of the great scams of all time. And then they claim, they did this with the NBA too. It's like, oh no, well, you're getting interest. It's like, all I know is you're keeping a big chunk of my money.
Right.
And I am not getting anything for that money. We made an agreement that I was paying this money for those games, and you are now not having those games. Can I have my money back?
Nope.
No.
The best thing is they'll apply the balance, the difference between the games. They're just going to apply that to next year. You'll never get that money back.
Yeah, they're going to roll it over.
Yeah, that's exactly what they're going to do.
Yeah, or they'll be like, oh, you can get it back with 1% interest, or we'll roll it over to next year, and you get 5% off your tickets. I'm like, so now I'm getting tickets for next year. We don't have a season yet.
Yeah.
It's great. Sports are the greatest scam going. We see it in all kinds of ways. We see it with these stupid stadiums that are getting built that don't help cities at all when cities don't have teachers. Can't afford it. They have to lay off teachers, but they're building a sports stadium. It's the best. Professional sports is great.
Yeah.
Keep it coming. Keep the idiocy coming. And nobody can really explain what this lockout settled that the last one couldn't have settled. That's the best part. They missed the whole season 8 years ago. And then we're in a situation where they almost had to miss another one. It's the best. And you know what else? The commissioner's going to come back. Because he did such a good job.
The thing that remains completely befuddling to me, the deal that they ultimately agreed to was on the table many months ago.
That was the case with the NBA.
Yeah.
Remember the NBA? I was told by somebody who was a very important person on one of the two sides exactly what the deal specifics were going to be on July 4th weekend.
Well,
and I wrote them in a column, and they all came true. Every single thing that person told me, he was like, this is where we're going to end up, and it's going to happen, and we'll be ready for Christmas Day. And that's what happened.
Well, in retrospect, I don't have any problem with the way the NBA thing went down. Christmas Day is when the NBA should start every season.
I agree. All right, so you're okay with this Redskins thing? I mean, does Shanahan recover if he tore his ACL?
How can you don't have a choice? I mean, I'm not okay with it. I'm expecting the worst.
But what happens if he tore his ACL? Does he just become a pariah in Washington? You know how Washington works.
I don't think so.
Okay.
I mean, he's taking a huge amount of criticism because everybody has the the benefit of not being down on the field and trying to make the decision. What it really points up is, though, as much as anything, and these are the stories I've found interesting, is the lack of a process, the lack of a medical process where a real professional can insert himself or herself into the thing and give an honest evaluation of whether or not, and especially in the context of the concussions, it's pretty amazing that we're still, talking about Shanahan's gut and the player making an impassioned plea to go back on the field.
When they have Dr. James Andrews there.
He's on the field.
Yeah.
Really? This is where we are still?
Well, the good news is you have the world's best local sports blogger, Dan Steinberg, who I'm sure is going to be all on top of everything. I'm excited to read him this week.
He's got everything covered. He's been killing it as always.
Yeah. All right. Well, a lot of stuff going on in the Washington sports scene. House.
Yeah.
Start training.
I have. You've seen a couple of the emails I've sent about some of the meals I've had here since the new year.
Yeah.
Over the holidays.
All right.
I've been doing a holiday thing.
All right. I really hope somebody doesn't die during this eating thing.
We need our own doctor on the field for this one.
Maybe we'll get Dr. James Andrews.
Does he know anything about the gut?
I've given Sal's small intestine a short examination. He cannot continue.
All anybody will need to do is push me in the belly. They'll know.
And you'll just keel over.
That's it.
Joe House, sorry about the Redskins. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks. Talk to you.
Last note before we go. We didn't get to Chad Millman today. We'll bring him back for Smart Guy Wednesday. He's smart. He edits a magazine. I think he qualifies. We'll talk to him and Aaron Schatz on Wednesday to get their take on the matchups, Vegas lines, all that stuff. And we will be back at a future time on the BS Report. Until then.
So I get to sign off. Whoa!
Thank you for downloading the BS Report with Bill Simmons.
Too much fun.
Check out more podcasts at the iTunes Music Store or at Pod Center at ESPNradio.com.
Peace out.